Hey, everybody, another edition of Off the Top Rope, Off the Mic Sports Network here. So, there's been a weird reaction on social media in the immediate aftermath of what transpired on Friday Night SmackDown from New Orleans. Rock announces the WrestleMania location. He pleads to Cody Rhodes, hey, I want your soul. I want you to be my champion, this sort of thing. It was a weird segment. That being said, what comes out of this is very intriguing. What I didn't like mostly come, and this is where tribalism in this fan base has really just screwed up the heart of what I love about professional wrestling. And that is drama and engaging television that leads into great matches. And we've kind of lost sight of what makes really good professional wrestling because I've seen so many AEW geeks, incels, like morons just say, thank God for Tony Khan. Thank God for this. Thank God for AEW being what it is. And I was like, guys, there's been a bunch of nonsensical, very bad, basic stories, nothing that is engaged into television to the point where AEW can't get 600,000 people to watch their show weekly. So if you're trying to tell me that, like, there was a couple of idiots who are obviously engagement farming, but there's a lot of people who actually believe this, that Tony Khan's already the book of the year. Guys, he had a couple good shows. Do you realize how much better AEW could be if they actually tried? Do you realize that? Remember back 5 years ago when you had that amazing story between the Young Bucks and the Elites and, Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega, and then coming out of the pandemic, how amazing that was. And it led into great wrestling and great storytelling. Do you realize how much better AEW would be if they tried? Then we could actually have a conversation. Then maybe more people would watch. But all AEW is worried about right now is the 5-star classics. They're not worried about creating compelling television. If they were, there would be many more segments like what happened with MJF and Hangman Adam Page. Like, yes, was SmackDown on Friday a bad show? Yes, it was. It was everything that I hated about 2017 to 2020 WWE, with Vince McMahon just doing whatever he wanted to and, just create, occasionally there'd be a good match, but there would be a bunch of bullshit comedy television, like the whole, R-Truth Louisiana night thing was stupid. And, some people were like trying to screen grab the bad botch between LA Knight and The Miz. Guys, grow up. The characters are what really sells the show, and then it leads into the wrestling. And the problem is, and what my big critique with AEW is they don't take the necessary steps to try. You don't think I'm telling the truth? One of the biggest people and one of the guys who actually at least, has a finger on the pulse, whether you love him or you hate Brian Alvarez. Brian Alvarez knows people within that company. He went on his show this week and basically said that AEW does not have production meetings. What? You don't have production meetings? No wonder stuff like Thunder Rosa and Megan Bain and Penelope Ford happens on your show. Like, if AEW actually took the necessary steps and didn't worry about just their freaking 5-star, like, classics and all this other bullshit, like, maybe they would actually create some good, compelling television that people would want to come back. Like, I read a story this week that said, yeah, the reason why the Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita match between them and, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay happened was because simply, hey, they wanted to show their best and a new form of wrestling. I was like, well, then why did 75% of your audience didn't stick around for Tony Storm and Mariah May? Tony Storm is the perfect example of what professional wrestling should be. It is a goofy, it is an outlandish character, so ridiculous in its creation, yet she goes out there and has some of the best wrestling matches and some of the great stuff that she has had with, what she had a great match with Mariah May. She's going to probably have another great match with her at the pay-per-view. This is what we want. We don't want just soap opera leading into nothing, but we want great, compelling wrestling. And that's what I think, even though we don't get The Rock, wrestling at WrestleMania, this whole corporate champion is very intriguing because, hey, it's going to lead to somebody turning heel or somebody selling out for The Rock. If it's Drew McIntyre, great. That makes a ton of sense. If it's CM Punk, that makes a ton of sense. If it's Cody Rhodes, that makes a ton of sense. If it's John freaking Cena, that honestly would be one of the most intriguing things on the board in his last year, trying as desperately as he has to win a championship that he hasn't had in almost a decade to try and break Ric Flair's record. That would be amazing television. That is what this is about. So if you're one of these AEW idiots who's just like, trying to glorify Tony Khan for as bad of a booker as he has been for the last 5 years, come on, what are we doing? Guys, he can accumulate all the talent in the world that he wants. If they don't try, that's why you're getting these subpar, shows to like half the wrestling audience. Because if he really cared and he really was invested in trying to get you to watch, like a lot of the, in between people that are going over to WWE television now and are engaging with The Rock, and I've been critical of The Rock, but on some level, there is a little bit of intrigue, even as bad as that segment was. Because remember how critical we were last year when Rock jumped over Cody Rhodes to get to Roman Reigns, and it lasted a week. Everybody freaked out. At least there's some intrigue here. And it'll probably lead to a good match and a high-profile match at WrestleMania. Like, you mean to tell me that some of the stuff that's going on in AEW makes any sense? Like, why the hell is Jon Moxley the world champion with this crappy gimmick? Like, why isn't Hangman Page in a higher profile position? That being said, Hangman MJF is the most interesting thing I've seen in AEW in a couple of years. And it will probably lead to one of their best feuds and one of their best matches that they've had in a long time. That's all that I want out of AEW. So if you're using this Rock and Cody Rhodes segment from last night, or depending on whenever you watched it, if you're trying to use this Rock, Cody, whatever the hell this is, as a reason to dunk on WWE, and I've seen a lot of people use the whole amended Janelle Grants, guys, we need to stop with this whole, everybody getting mad over stuff that's taking place outside of the wrestling sphere, okay? I'm really getting sick and tired of that. We've got to focus on the product on television. And yes, I have seen the worst of both worlds transpire in both AEW and WWE in the last week. Because you've seen messy in-ring wrestling segments. You've seen messy promo segments. It's just like, guys, what makes wrestling great is we use these segments to get to great wrestling matches. AEW has, just gone for all the matches. And then you've got The Rock basically saying, yeah, you know what? If it doesn't have to lead to a match. It's like, what are we talking about here? Come on. Everybody needs to grow up. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.